Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. Sorry if my voice sounds tired throughout this video, I just got home from a big family event. So there may be a few cracks along the way, but bear with me here. This video is probably going to bother a lot of people. Before we jump in, I would like to just lay down some important things so everyone can go into the video with an idea of where I'm coming from, rather than a wrong idea that this is some kind of dumb, cringy console war video. So the number one thing is immediately that right there. It's not a console war video, you know, I have my own platform of preference. I think we all do, where we own most of our games, but I don't like the platform war cringe. I grew out of it by the time that I was 14. It's incredibly cringy. I hate seeing it. It's an immediate unsubscribe from me. I just want good games and good service. That's it. I dabble on all three major platforms, and I even considered grabbing a Nintendo before the recent anti-consumer announcements made me uninterested. Number two is, I've used Game Pass several times before. I used it a lot around 2021 and through about half of 2022. It did legitimately help me to save a few bucks during a time of need where money was rough because of COVID lockdowns and all of that, plus having to move. You know how it is. It was a rough couple of years, I think, for most people in the world. And the Game Pass allowed me to still be able to play a variety of games while also being able to save up for a PS5. So I do actually acknowledge the value that the Game Pass brings. I think that if you're hard for cash, it can be an advantageous thing, but two things can be right at the same time, and the other side of this is one of the things that I'll be talking about here today, which touches on the Game Pass shifting from being a nice optional service that brings value to the consumer to now being some sort of ideal, some sort of main business strategy that Xbox is trying to pursue and make the default. Like many things in life, a single individual thing can be good and unproblematic until it starts being idealized and affecting other things while trying to adjust or force them to fit into that ideal. So let's get into it. So, the games industry is not in any way a perfectly well-oiled machine running flawlessly. It is in no way a perfectly fair system that ensures that everything that should succeed will succeed and everything that shouldn't will crash. There are ways in which great projects can end up failing. There are various avenues through which companies can cheat the system and abuse it, or even abuse us, their customers, through a myriad of predatory and prejudicial means and tactics to exploit addiction, fear of missing out, or just straight up tricking people with in-game currencies. The industry can definitely be unpredictable, which can result in both amazing outcomes as well as terrible ones. For example, just a few weeks ago we saw Schedule 1, an indie game made by a single guy, take the world by storm, completely changing that solo developer's life and showing the industry that the future isn't solely tied to grandiose, top-of-the-line quality games with gorgeous visuals, animations, etc., tied to big-budget productions. And then, shortly after that, we saw Expedition 33, a debut game from a small team of around 30 developers, started by a bored ex-Ubisoft employee, and this game showed the industry that studios can achieve these grandiose, top-of-the-line quality games with those same gorgeous visuals and animations and etc. that we expect out of AAA, but at a much smaller budget and with a much tighter team. On the flip side of that, of course, there's negative surprises born of this unpredictability as well, which can be exemplified by games such as Concord, where something misses the mark so hard that it results in a massively damaging flop for its parent company, a loss of several $100 million, and a never-seen-before occasion of a AAA big-name game getting shut down, pulled from stores, and refunded in less than 2 weeks. And although many would call this a predictable fail, it's kind of like the situation with Expedition 33. It's obvious why it works. It's obvious that top studios in this industry are literally being held back by how big they've grown, how much they've expanded, and how much red tape that has come with that territory. But nonetheless, it's an unpredictable scenario from the perspective of the industry itself. What Sony expected out of Concord, for example, was that it was going to be their biggest franchise and brand. Why did they think this? I don't know, but they did. They called it their Star Wars. So all of this just to say that, yeah, the industry is not perfect, and the way that things happen don't always follow some predetermined or just rules. Sometimes shit happens. Sometimes things stick that shouldn't have stuck because of pressure and trickery, resulting in those situations where companies are given inches and end up taking miles, as is the case with microtransactions. And sometimes solid games undersell, investors pull out, and then sequels that could have been amazing are never seen again. But I would say that for the most part, there is a natural cycle in which most of the games that make it and most of the games that don't are a reflection of their quality and a reflection of what audiences want. Generally speaking, in this industry, if you do something right, gamers will let you know by making you incredibly successful and showering you with love. And if you do something wrong, well, you will definitely know it as well, because your game runs the risk of not just not selling, but also getting clowned on pretty hard on social media, user reviews, and video platforms like this. So there's a natural inclination towards developers listening to the complaints, criticism, and feedback that they're getting and actually trying to make positive changes based on that information, at least the ones who want to make money and be successful. There's also a natural inclination towards developers wanting to improve their craft, wanting to innovate systems or even create new ones or experiment with them to create something unique that draws people's attention, that gets them addicted to a particular gameplay loop, or maybe that refines an already existing system or genre, taking it to new heights, etc. And the same goes on the creative side of things, incentivizing developers to either write or hire writers to work harder on the way that they tell stories, to expand more on their world building, to hire talent if they hit a wall that they can't get past, experiment with new designs and artwork, hire top tier composers, etc. Basically to just push to be better, to stand out from the crowd and entice players into buying their games instead of their competitors. This is how a healthy industry moves along and levels up. And again, in the interest of good faith, I'll give another example of this industry not being perfect, like with the cases of patenting game mechanics. We see, for example, how the Nemesis system from the Shadow of Mordor games was tied to Warner Brothers, and now the studio that developed it has been shut down, and so we're probably never even going to see it again. Similarly, we also have Palworld being sued by Nintendo because of the concept of throwing an object at a creature to capture it, among other things. And of course, who could forget the whole drama between Epic Games and PlayerUnknown because of the Battle Royale genre. So again, guys, while I do understand that there are caveats and that this industry is not perfect, that there are still injustices that happen, there are still stupid things that come up, I still believe that there's a very notable concept of a natural cycle where it is important for developers to never undervalue their projects, because doing so can cause them to lose money, and losing money can cause them to end up scrapped by their publishers or investors. And I believe that the Game Pass is a big problem in this regard. I believe the Game Pass enables studios to make inadequate work, enables them to fall into the habit of making undercooked, uninspiring slop like Avowed, for example, because they have a safety net to fall back on and they are not competing against other games. The individual success of a game is not as important because now it's not sales that matter, it's subscriptions. And subscriptions from other games all go towards holding up any new Game Pass release, like people who subscribe to play Expedition 33, for example, now can also add on to Avowed or Doom Dark Ages player count because, you know, why not? They already have the subscription, so why not try them? And even if they don't try them, the people that are subscribing for any specific game are still contributing towards that same safety net that keeps all of these other projects afloat. I think the problem is most noticeable through Xbox's own productions, of course, rather than, third-party games being added onto it, but I think it can grow to affect others as well if Xbox keeps making these kinds of deals in the future, which I believe that they will, since they have been putting the Game Pass so high in their list of priorities that it has literally shown a shift in their business. This is the problem, it's that Game Pass stopped being just a service to add value to the Xbox consumer and is now instead, for lack of a better word, a full commitment. A main business strategy that is forcing other avenues of interacting with the Xbox ecosystem to either change or become purposefully worse just to justify or incentivize people to fall in line with the Game Pass. In other words, we are seeing various negative moves to reinforce the Game Pass or give it relevance. With the Game Pass in mind, I don't think we'll see Xbox studios pushing the limits and try to deliver truly high-tier experiences the more we go forward. And I say forward because obviously despite their poor performance, we had Indiana Jones last year and now Doom Dark Ages, which do look like well-rounded high-budget experiences. I haven't played Indiana Jones yet, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but the game does look pretty good and some people seem to hold it in high regard, others don't, but you know, I'm still including it here regardless. Otherwise, I would just mention Doom Dark Ages, which seems like a worthy successor to the previous games, barring the music issue being something that sadly it's a shame. You know, for those unaware, I won't go into it too much, but Mick Gordon and the studio plus the publisher of Doom had a huge falling out. There was a lot of drama to do with missing deadlines by part of the composer. The composer accused the company of working without payment. There was a lot of drama. It spilled out onto social media in public view of everyone. It was pretty ugly, and now there we go. We got Doom Dark Ages and we just don't have the same composer anymore, and it is pretty goddamn noticeable in the gameplay. No disrespect to the new composer, of course, but it is what it is. A superior talent must be recognized, and Mick Gordon was a superior talent. That aside, the other issues seem to be smaller problems that are patchable, such as the parry slowdown issue that a couple of people have been criticizing, but I believe that as we go forward, we will see worse and worse games. Not necessarily totally dogshit games, but definitely underwhelming ones, mid ones, and on occasion ones like Avowed where they're so mediocre that they'll have you wondering what the hell happened with the studio. And this is because there's nothing pushing them to make games better, to take risks, to push harder with the goal to set a higher bar for themselves, the goal to have their games stand out, to be impressive, to get people to buy them, the goal to be at least at the same level of or superior to the competition. I mean, Jesus, with Avowed we saw the opposite. We saw something that was inferior to their own previous games, something that was compared and falling short of games that were over a decade older. I think the Game Pass is going to do the opposite of this. I don't believe the budgets are going to be able to go as high as they need them to go for the production of better games, which wouldn't even be an inherently bad thing. I often complain in my videos about how overly inflated the budgets are in big publishers, but in this case, it's not that the budget is lower because the companies will have downsized and learned how to make games more efficiently. Their spending habits and the bloat is still going to be there. It's just that now that a Microsoft is not going to be shelling out as much money anymore, because in order for this Game Pass centric business strategy to work out, they'll need to reduce their spending to make the games more viable. We already see Xbox making this push. This isn't an imaginary or a what if scenario, it's just there. In recent times, Xbox has moved forward with focusing on publishing and shutting down their departments responsible for physical copies, moving their games to now be digital-only releases. Beyond that, they're also increasing the standard price of a game from $70 to $80 alongside Nintendo, a terrible mistake that's going to have devastating consequences sooner or later. The push for the increase in price of a standard copy of a video game is right there in tandem with the continuous support for day one releases of new Xbox Studio games on Game Pass and the abolishment of physical copies. These are not coincidences. These are very deliberate pushes for taking away game ownership from us. By making games so insanely expensive, and even more ridiculously so when considering that we're paying for a fucking digital thing that is up in the cloud rather than an actual physical copy with a disc that we can actually own, put up on a shelf, and also of course borrow to a friend or sell at a game store if we get tired of it or if we don't like it or for whatever reason, basically to do with as you please because it's yours. And then having Game Pass offer a cheaper alternative, they are essentially manipulating people into switching to a subscription service. In other words, they're making the market worse for us with more expensive games with no physical options, and then they are offering us a solution to the problem that they created, an alternative that seems like a mercy, shelling out $18 and accessing these games via Game Pass instead. Plus, while acting like the good guys, like, hey gamer, here you go, isn't this much better? Isn't this much cheaper? Aren't we good? We're the good guys. Aren't we lovely and great? I mean, look at what we're offering you. We're offering you so much value. This is costing us so much. We are offering you so much value. We feel so much for you. We care so much for you, dear gamers. This is happening right in front of our eyes, and people can't even talk about it earnestly because of the aforementioned platform war cringe mentality that has people completely ignoring the problem right in front of them in favor of playing the equivalent of team sports. Who cares if my team is fucking me over? That's my team, and my team is better than your team. And that's $18 for now. Back in 2022 when I was using it, it was $13. Much bigger value. It has since gone up by $5 in just 3 years. We will keep seeing it increasing over time alongside the price of a standard copy of a game, so that contrast is always there, making sure that people can look upon Game Pass as a favorable little savior that, despite having gone beyond expensive for what it offers, is still cheaper than the ludicrous alternative of paying $80, $90, or hell, maybe even $100 for a digital copy of a video game. There's a reason why Game Pass was praised and PlayStation Now was clowned on. Game Pass offered an actually valuable service with a great selection of games, day one titles that, even though they haven't been up to the same standards as PlayStation's first-party titles, were still right there on launch, day one, giving people something brand new to sink their teeth into. And its price was significantly lower than that of PlayStation Now, which already at the time cost a whopping $20 a month. Now, fast forward a few years, and we have Game Pass a mere $2 away from that $20 a month price tag. I know some people are going to listen to this and they're going to think that $18 it's fine, it doesn't matter, there's still a lot of value because there's dozens upon dozens of games that you can just pick on the spot, download, play, choose another one, etc. And I get that, I do, but it just doesn't justify the fact that this is no longer just a service that allows users to do this. It's not like an additional thing, it's something that is being pushed on us by manipulating the market and making the alternatives worse. We're no longer in the same situation that we were in. The Xbox of 5-6 years ago is not the same Xbox of right now. Back in 2021, I bought an Xbox because I genuinely felt like they were the way to go. They were the ones who were going to shine this generation because of their pro-consumer measures. Sure, the exclusives weren't all there yet, but I was willing to let them cook. They had their acquisitions, maybe sooner or later the games will start releasing, and they will live up to their studio names. Studios such as Ninja Theory, Bethesda, Arcane, Machine Gun Games, id Software, Obsidian, etc. Sadly, this wasn't the case, and sadly now the whole pro-consumer angle is also totally gone. I don't know what happened, I don't know if some bigwig in there got replaced by some jackass who started changing their strategy, the same thing that happened with PlayStation of course, or maybe if this is all a consequence from that stupid, idiotic, useless acquisition deal with Activision, a veritable disaster that cost them so much goddamn money. The point is that regardless of what it is that happened, the facts don't change, that Xbox is changing, much like how PlayStation also changed in the turning of the generation. This is why Xbox's pro-consumer moves were so notable and so praised. It's because they were contrasting against PlayStation's greedy decisions, their own price increases, their paid game upgrades, their subscription hikes, splitting PlayStation Now into 3 tiers, taking away PlayStation Plus offers from PS4 users and giving them only to PS5 users. Initially, PlayStation 5 wasn't even going to have the backwards compatibility that it has now. They were only going to offer like 100 games in the beginning. I bet that they were going to fucking make them a subscription thing as well, until basically it blew up online and people were complaining like, how can this be possible? Xbox offers full compatibility, how does PlayStation not do it? And then suddenly, within just a few months, PlayStation comes out and announces that, oh, actually guys, we can do backwards compatibility after all. So on, so forth. I could go on and on. I was very disillusioned, disappointed, and just sad with PlayStation at the turning of the generation. As a primary PlayStation user, I was pissed and reluctant to give Sony my damn money. I knew it wouldn't last. I knew there'd be exclusives in the future that I would like and that I would end up getting a PlayStation 5 for anyway, but still I said fuck them and I prioritized the Xbox anyway. But yeah, all of that momentum is gone now because Xbox has been doing the same things, to some extent even worse things. Like for me personally, the whole thing of shutting down physical copies is egregious. I think I'm in a minority here. I don't understand why. Like, it's nuts to me that so many people are okay with shelling out $70, sometimes even more because of tax, for a digital game, something that just straight up is inaccessible if your account goes up in the air or if you happen to not have internet. But anyway, yeah, either way, that's a big one for me. I'm immediately immediately not inclined towards buying a damn thing if it's digital only. For me, the price of a digital game is no higher than 40 bucks, maybe 50 if it's something brand new and that I'm really excited for, but more than that is ridiculous. Even Baldur's Gate 3, when it came out, everyone was pissing all over themselves over the game for months and months and months. It pretty much won every category that it was on in the Game Awards, even the ones that made no sense at all, like there was stuff to do with multiplayer gaming, and it still won those awards. Regardless, I didn't buy it. I waited for them to release a physical edition or for the price to drop to like 40 or maybe 30 bucks. I didn't buy Starfield or Avowed either, because I actually didn't know that Avowed was going to be so bad. I didn't know that Starfield was going to be so disappointing. I thought that these games were going to be minimally good, so I wanted a copy. I wanted to buy something physical, put on my shelf, but I couldn't, and I wasn't about to spend $70 on a digital copy for these games, so I played them through Game Pass. There you go, that's how the fucking plan works, and it pisses me off that someday Fallout 5 is going to come out, Elder Scrolls 6 is going to come out, the new Halo is going to come out, and fingers crossed all of these games are going to be great. Like, that's my number one hope. And I'm not going to be able to buy a goddamn physical copy of these games to own and place on a shelf because Xbox is running a fucking psyop to drive everyone to Game Pass and establish a subscription-based future. But anyway, sorry, enough venting from me about the physical thing. I just see all of these things, and I'm tired of seeing this defense of like, oh, but they're putting their games on Game Pass day one. That doesn't really matter to me anymore though, because the Game Pass is no longer the same value that it used to be. A month of the service is a quarter of the way into buying whatever game I'd be subscribing for, and if it's a game that I'm going to subscribe for, chances are it's a game that I'm genuinely interested in. If it's a game that I'm genuinely interested in, then it's a game that I want to own, that I want to support. Therefore, I want to buy it, not subscribe to access it, and then someday I want to replay it again or whatever and it's gone. And it also doesn't matter because look at the games themselves. Xbox Studio games have terrible reputations. There's some good stuff that slips through the cracks sometimes, such as earlier this year we got the Ninja Gaiden remake sort of thing, and now we got the Oblivion remaster, which I'm lukewarm about. But no matter, it's still an exciting release. I'm not going to take that away from them, nor from myself, of course. I have my gripes with it, but I still like the game. That aside, and nice surprises like Stalker 2 for example, we still have stuff like Avowed, which was utterly heartbreaking, and South of Midnight, which just didn't land either, and that's putting it lightly, and leaving out the controversy surrounding the game by having developers working on it who proudly state for all to see that they hate gamers. Indiana Jones, as I mentioned earlier, was mixed. Starfield was meant to be a phenomenon, instead it was forgotten. Redfall was a disaster. It is what it is, you get my point. I appreciate that day one releases are a thing, but they hardly carry much weight anymore. Like, it's not something that I'm going to shit myself for, you understand? Like, I've been more excited this year to play third-party releases than first-party releases. And then, at the end of all this, that also segues into the way that it all ties together, which is we are being herded like sheep towards a Game Pass-centric future. This is what Xbox has envisioned. This is what they're pushing for. And in the end, what's it all for? What's waiting for us at the end of the line? Well, an age of slop, where games are made to merely hold up the Game Pass. No special titles that are strong enough to sell a whole ass console, no special titles to attach to the Xbox name the way that the Master Chief's helmet was associated for so many years. Nothing to break through the glass ceiling and say, I'm here, I am the next big thing, you want to play me. Just lower budgeted and lower effort safe content to fill the gaps between other releases in order to hopefully retain recurring subscriptions. Safe as in stuff that doesn't run too many risks to be made. Basically, think of Ubisoft and the way that they've made games for the last few years. Just safe little open world games following that same template with a few changes between each other. Never again did we see something new. The last time was what? Watch Dogs 1 back in 2013 or whatever? And that is a damn shame because they did acquire some damn good studios that did some damn good work back when they literally had to in order to pay their bills and keep their doors open. But if these studios' doors are guaranteed to stay open, they are more incentivized towards not making harder and more challenging games to develop. Then yeah, I think what awaits us in the future are more Avoweds and Souths of Midnight, with surprises like Ninja Gaiden being rare. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe this is all just a big coincidence, maybe the decline in quality is more owed to each individual studio raking up L after L after L, perhaps through low oversight from Xbox or a lack of managerial skills, or perhaps I'm right, and problems run even deeper than that, such as this list of creative restrictions would suggest, a list that was shared by Xbox themselves just last year to virtue signal about how responsible, how sensitive, how progressive, how politically correct, etc. they are in the development of their games. As if any of us were looking for any sensitivity or progressiveness in our games, as if anything at all that's on this list is anything that either of us are fucking interested in. But alas, that's a matter for another day. One way or another, I will be rooting for Xbox to get better because at the end of the day, I'm just a dude who wants some good games to play. I don't want to see these studios, publishers, and platforms failing. I want to see them thriving because I want to play some good games, but I don't want to see them screwing over the consumer for it. And I believe that in order to get there, we need to be more open and critical of them. And it's very important to do that with these 4 major platforms because people online just resort to cringy, immature team sports. Like, fellas, it's already a very difficult target to achieve. We railed and railed against Nintendo over the past few weeks, and what happened? The Switch 2 sold out anyway, and the shit they are doing with it is even worse and more egregious than what PlayStation or Xbox is doing. So when we're trying to be critical and enact change and we get interrupted by moronic console war bickering or platform war in general, it only makes that harder. If you want to have a personal favorite platform, go for it. Everybody does. But if you want that platform to continue being good, to continue offering you value, then you have to criticize it. You can't just lick its balls or whatever the fuck. But anyway, that's about it from me on this matter. Thank you very much for watching. Please like the video if you found anything of value in it, and let me know where your heads are at in the comments. Do you use Game Pass? If you do, let me know like what exactly is it that keeps you resubscribing, what's exactly the value that you're finding in it. If you don't, let me know why. Let me know if, for example, if you're on PlayStation, let me know if you would like to see something like the Game Pass or even the Game Pass itself making its way to that platform. Would it offer you value, etc. Either way, I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.